Ah, there you are, human. I was beginning to wonder if you had forgotten all about promising to assist me with my research into the scrolls you and Levi brought back. Of course I have already begun. I have been working on the translations for the past 2 hours now. Indeed. I woke up at 7 a.m. this morning. Is this uncommon for you where you are from, human? Ah, I see. Then you are just a lazy human then, Oh, relax. I am merely joking. Can't you tell by my tone change? Regardless, you seem to at least be enjoying the bed that Levi and I prepared for you. I apologize that I cannot offer you better quality housing, but until we discover a safe place for you to stay, the spare storage room will have to suffice. That is good to hear at least. Moving on, we have work to do, human, so either pull up a chair or stand here by me. There is coffee and tea with sugar and milk by the back table should you require any to start your morning. Indeed. I have already begun and nearly finished the first 2. Science waits for no one, human. Not even, human. I was not willing to plan my research around your sleep schedule, but now that you are here, I have an inkling that you may indeed be of great use. But, before we begin, how did your excursion into the Verdunwood ruins with Levi go? I trust the journey concluded without complication? Excellent. Magic? What about magic? Oh, you cast magic for the first time as well while out on this venture? Someone who had never cast magic before, let alone even seen it cast an actual spell. Successfully. Interesting. And how came you by the ability to do this, human? Ah, so it was Levi's idea to start out by utilizing a spell tag first in order to test whether or not you had the fundamental capabilities required to cast magic at all? Well, very clever. Remind me to express my commendation to him of such an intuitive approach to this query next time he is in the lab. What was the spell tag? A candle flame spell tag? A wise choice. Well? What do you mean, well what? Well, tell me, human, how did it go? Did the spell exhibit any aberration? Aberration, the act of negatively diverging from what is usually normal or common. Did the spell experience any hiccups, as it were? Did anything go wrong? Well, at least you did not light the entire camp on fire. What is it? Wait. When you successfully activated the spell tag, Levi exclaimed that it appeared as though the resulting spell had been upgraded. What do you mean by upgraded? It was big. Well, give me something, human. How big was it? How bright was it? How hot was it? Did it change shape? Was it unstable? Did you light yourself on fire? Did it explode? What happened? You followed all of Levi's instructions, okay. Yes, and focused on channeling your mana into the spell tag. And he thinks that it must have overcharged the flame? Fascinating. Well, what you have just proposed, theoretically, should be, impossible. Spell tags have what is called a spell script on them, a series of scrivenings comprised of geometric shapes and arcane symbols. This is called a spell script, the arcane blueprint of the spell itself. Then, that spell script is imbued with the scriber's mana, tuned specifically to the element of the spell via the writer's Satorite ink. This is what differentiates a spell tag from a slip of paper with funny markings on it. So because each spell tag has a specific defined spell script on it with only so much stored mana to fuel the spell, there shouldn't be any possible way to upgrade it. It would be one thing to attempt to cast a spell like Frostwave and end up casting it, Niflheim instead, sure. But to upgrade the spell of a spell tag... And you said that the flame was definitely not reminiscent of a candle's flame, correct? How much bigger? Like the size of a grapefruit. Now that is interesting indeed. We will need to test this again in the lab, you understand? If we can replicate this, then we can begin to study it, and hopefully understand how you are upgrading the spells on these spell tags. But not now. We have scrolls to examine first, specifically the scrolls you and Levi brought back from the Verdonwood ruins. Where is Levi today anyway? Well, I have sent Levi on an errand to retrieve a few scrolls and tomes from the Archaeological Library of the Royal College of Alcea. I believe that I may need to revisit a few research findings if I am to fully decode these scrolls. Oh, you think that I send Levi out on a lot of errands for someone who is supposed to be my assistant? A very amusing observation, human. Indeed, I have been sending Levi out on a lot of errands lately. Assignments that he does not dislike, mind you. Levi will take any excuse to spend time outside on his feet, that little hikeaholic. In all honesty, I've no idea where he gets the energy. The reason, though, that I have been sending Levi on so many errands lately is because I have you to assist me in his stead. What better assistant to have while studying human scrolls and artifacts than an actual human, after all? What? So I've finally acknowledged that you are a real human? I may in fact owe you a bit of an apology, human. If you did indeed cast actual magic right in front of Levi's own eyes, overcasting it even, then I may have misjudged you a bit. But I may require just a tad more research before I am fully convinced that you are biologically identical, or at least undoubtedly similar to the ancient, long-lost humans of our world. Now, we have work to do, so focus. Please hand me those 2 scrolls over there. I would like to review some of my findings with you before proceeding on to the next one. Now, I began examining these this morning, about an hour after I woke up, and I've made some interesting findings. Like this here. Look at this symbol at the top. I'm sure that Levi's informed you by now that this vortex-looking symbol signifies that the writings within adhere to spatial magic, yes? Good. Now, look at the symbol on the second scroll, here. This is not the same symbol as the one on the first scroll. If you look closely in the middle of the vortex here, there is a vertical eyeball. Well, in all honesty, I have no idea what the symbol means, unfortunately. Though I can say it must be linked to spatial magic somehow. This is a rather unexpected development. It is possible that the humans may have founded an even further offshoot of spatial magic besides just teleportation. Indeed, the idea of uncovering a currently unknown ancient school of magic is quite exhilarating, but we must focus, human. We have much more pressing information that we require from these scrolls right now. Before we begin, allow me to put my gloves back on. Are the gloves for the safety of the scrolls? No. These scrolls are actually quite resilient due to how they were made. So although animals, insects, and the elements pose serious threats, contact with the oils in your hands while handling is not. No, the gloves are for me. I do not particularly enjoy getting my hands literally dirty, unlike my peppy protege. I value my cleanliness greatly, so I prefer to wear gloves the majority of the time, a trait I wish many more would take into consideration. These are my casual gloves, that are made of breathable, pill-proof cotton, which I wear while in the laboratory. I have my expeditionary gloves, which I wear when I venture with Levi into the wilds. thicker and more durable, made of leather, you see. Then there are my fine gloves, which are made of high-quality silk, stitched with traditional Elven embroidery, which I wear when I get dressed up, go into the city, or attend formal occasions. Lastly are my combat gloves, made of element-treated polyester, resilient, flexible, and fitted with Tsundere. Where do I keep all of them? Why, in my glove case, of course. Where else? Yes, I have a glove case. It is a lacquered, dark walnut wooden case, lined with cerulean velvet and protected with a lock and key. I fail to see how this is so strange to you, though, human. A germaphobe? Don't be dramatic. By definition, a phobia is an irrational fear of something. I do not fear germs. I merely place considerable value on upholding and maintaining my own personal cleanliness. Therefore, I like wearing gloves and possess a wide variety to suit all of my needs. Now, are you ready to pay attention, human, and cease this snickering? Or are you intent on whiling the day away talking about my gloves, Thank gods. Now, take a look back at the scroll, will you? Do you see this passage here? This part touches on the fundamentals of integrated spatial magic. This is akin to what we are looking for. Okay. Although you nod your head, human, the blank look in your eyes tells me that you're not actually following along with what I'm saying. Integrated spatial magic is the study of how to incorporate it into automated mechanisms. Think of the portal stones around Alcea. These metal and stone mechanisms are integrated with huge Tsundere crystals that have been imbued with spatial magic. These constructs function as giant spell tags in a way. I don't know how to use spatial magic. Levi doesn't know how to use spatial magic. Nobody in Alcea does, and yet these portal stones allow us to travel anywhere we need to go within a certain radius, provided that it's a wide open space, of course. Kind of like how you cast that candle flame spell. You've never cast candle flame before. You don't even know how to channel fire magic in general, and yet you did it because the spell tag automated the process for you. The portal stones do the same thing. All you need do is touch the stone, envision in your mind where it is you want to go, and channel your mana through it, and a portal opens. Voila! Teleportation magic. Alright, well, settle down, human. It's not a perfect system by any definition. And no, we cannot go out and try one right now, alright? Focus! In order to actually open a portal stone, you need to have a clear image in your mind of where it is you want to go. Meaning that it must be somewhere you've either seen or been to before. It cannot be a very enclosed space in order to account for any teleportation deviations. And the distance at which you can teleport is limited to just 100 feet beyond the city walls at the most. On top of that, you cannot bring large, non-living objects with you. Also, horses do not like it. Most beasts of burden don't, to be quite honest. Good memory, human. Our portal stones are based upon those that the ancient humans constructed nearly 1,000 years ago. As you may have noticed by now, humans were good at recording their history, although their penchant for secrecy makes things a lot more difficult for us. Because of this, our portal stones are merely cheap imitations of theirs, with their pinpointing much more precise and their maximum range far greater than ours. It's scrolls like these that are the best way for us to learn about their history, though, so we'll just have to make do. What? This part? Oh, this details the Arcane Grid that their portal stones all ran on. It's how they were powered. This diagram here illustrates the layout in which they were all connected. You can see here that they all expand out from their former capital, forming a web of sorts. Each of these archaic symbols represents a ruin, which has said symbol engraved on a plaque of sorts above the main entrance. The humans were admirably big on organization. You may have seen the one outside of the Verdonwood ruins with Levi. You want to know where on this web the Verdonwood ruins are? Well, you won't find it on this map. As you and Levi saw, there are no portal stones in the Verdonwood ruins. Either they didn't deem the location important enough to build a portal stone in it, Or, with their sudden disappearance, they did not have the opportunity to build one. You say you've seen this symbol before? Where in the world could you have seen this? What? Outside the Verdunwood ruins? That's impossible. The Verdunwood ruins had a plaque but no symbol on it. Where do you say you've seen this? You have got to be joking. A nightshade bush. You saw it under a nightshade bush while you were building the campfire for you and Levi. The metal symbol must have fallen from the stone plaque above the main entrance to the ruins and landed where a bush must have grown over it. Being a nightshade bush, it makes sense that animals would avoid it and not feed on it, and that people would not want to go near it. Nightshade is highly poisonous after all. We just assumed that because it had no symbol, the building itself must not have been that important in the grand scheme of things. I must say, human, that you continue to surprise me. First, you overcast a spell tag on your first try, and next you happen to spot something that everybody thought didn't even exist. I am a little impressed. But only lightly so. Do not let it go to your head just because you happen to spot a single symbol. The symbol. Do you know what this means, human? It means that if the Verdunwood ruins do indeed have a symbol that matches one of the symbols on this grid diagram, then that means there is indeed a portal stone deep within the ruins somewhere. But, well, the only part of the ruins that we have yet to gain access to is currently locked behind a giant stone door, sealed by an incredibly powerful warding spell. The same ward that I have been working on how to dispel, actually. But why would the humans build a portal stone deep underground, in the lowest reaches of these ruins, no less, when they were almost always built in the center of the main foyer, or the courtyard? And why seal the portal stone within the deepest reaches of the ruins behind a magically fortified vault door? Unless there is more down there than just the portal stone. This only confirms, human, that we need inside of that chamber more than ever. But first, we will need to crack that ward. How powerful can the ward be? If only you knew. I have been working on dispelling this ward for over 4 years, human. I've tried everything, subjecting it to extreme temperatures, dwarven explosives, even good old-fashioned winter elf steel. What does that last part mean? Well, there is not much about my people that I can say I am proud of, but winter elven enchanted weapons are second to none. I had hoped that the proper application of force in the right place would at least crack the ward, but it didn't even do so much as scratch it. Huh? You want to ask me something? What is it? What? You want to know more about Hugaheim? Why would you want to know about that place? And how do you know where I come from? Wait, let me guess. Levi? That blonde idiot. That boy is smart, I'll give him that, but he has a problem keeping private information private. So he told you about where I am from, Oh, no, it's fine. Great. I'm sure it was bound to come up eventually. Did Levi also tell you that the last conversation he and I had about my homeland was very unpleasant? You want to know why I dislike my homeland so much? You say that Levi told you a little about it, and that it doesn't sound so terrible? Well, in truth, it's not the land itself that made me leave my home for good. All right, look. If I tell you why I left, will you give me your word that you will finally cease all of this senseless questioning and assist me with my research in earnest as you promised you would. You swear, human? Fine. Then listen closely, for the less I have to speak on this matter, the better. It's not the easiest topic for me to address, believe it or not. And no interrupting. Good. All right. As you have already heard, I hail from the far northern winter elven kingdom of Hugaheim. In truth, to call it a kingdom is a bit of a joke, really. Hugaheim is a land of constant struggle and conflict, with its people divided into a series of clans. I was born to the Dunare clan, one of the larger winter elf clans whose home, Dunairthorpe, lies nestled between the Fenris Sulphur Mountains in a large frozen lake called the Eye of Ymir. Oh yes, it snows all the time. Due to this, farming is difficult as the unforgiving weather only allows for a few months of hardy crop yield. Because of this, clans will often lead raids against one another in order to take what supplies they need by force, which may seem crude if it weren't for the fact that nearly all of the clans in Hugaheim are already at constant war with at least one or two other clans year-round to begin with. What do they fight over? Oh, anything really. Land, resources, dominance, maybe the Jarl of one clan slighted another in some way, boredom. Oh yes, to you I'm sure that it sounds quite awful, but to the Winter Elves, conflict is a way of life. The strong survive and the weak, well, do not. My clan was in conflict with the Vargr clan, who lived in the north among the Fenrisulfur Mountains, and the Bjornar clan, who lived to the southwest in the Skrailingi woods. Mostly the Bjornar clan. What other clans are there? Well, there is also the Hroffen clan, the Jor clan, the Slenga clan, the Stormer clan, the Ugla clan, the Bertingr clan, the Ek clan, and the Bosk clan, as well as a few outliers and broken clans that barely bear mentioning anymore, like the Hrendiri, the Skeldus, and the Berserker clans. What was my clan like? Well, my clan was one of the larger ones, symbolized by the image of the stag. We survived primarily off of fish and game, as the Eye of Ymir connects directly to the sea due to a series of small streams, and the Skrailingi woods lay just to the southwest. We also farmed oats, barley, and wheat, as well as a few livestock such as cows, woolly pigs, and chickens. My clan was comprised primarily of hunters and warriors, but we were not without our artisans either. We had bakers and brewers, wood carvers, storytellers, smiths, tattooists, musicians, tailors, weavers, painters, and scribers, and even jewelry craftsmen. Oh yes, jewelry, often fitted with emeralds, rubies, or sapphires, although Winter Elven jewelry is not as dainty or refined as Alsaean jewelry is. In fact, my belt buckle is reminiscent of Winter Elven fashion, although it was Dwarven manufactured. Well, Winter Elf jewelry is thicker. It has to be designed to withstand the harshness of battle, and certain jewelry represents your intentions or social status within Winter Elf culture. A common example are arm rings and circlets. Arm rings are thick, handcrafted metal bands often made of copper, steel, gold, or silver, and are intricately carved with ornate designs. They usually have a small gap in the band somewhere, meaning that they don't actually connect all the way around like a ring, and are often presented as symbols of friendship or unity between clans or families that have formed some kind of relationship. Circlets are thick, ornate metal bands worn around the head, usually by jarls or those of noble blood or high status, instead of something like an unwieldy crown that could slip off or become a nuisance in combat. I remember my first circlet. It was so big it could have passed for a necklace. Yes, was the son of the Jarl of the Dunare clan. But please do not attempt to treat me as royalty or nobility in any way. Here, I am just a mere scientist, archaeologist, historian, and alchemist. That is all. No, I have not seen nor spoken to my father or my mother, for that matter, in quite some years. Oh, I'm sure he has better things to worry about than how I'm doing, trust me. Besides, I am more than capable of taking care of myself, and it is not as though the clan will fall apart without me. My mother? Well, my mother in many ways is the exact opposite of my father. She's gentle, kind, and quite possibly the greatest cook I will ever know. But she was also strong, stalwart, brave, and could command a room with a single look if she so chose. She was also our clan's greatest archer. Wielding a great bow nearly the size of her, she could split a log in half with an ice lance from over 900 feet away. She taught me almost everything I know, from writing to cooking to stitching, and even a little ice magic. Well, my father, especially later in my life, was usually more concerned with warfare than spending time with me. What about the rest of my ice magic? Well, that did come from my father. You want to know what he was like? Well, how do I put this? My father was a hard man to impress. My father had been raised by his father on the idea that only the strong survive, and that we had to be as swift as the winter chill, as strong as the permafrost, and as unstoppable as an avalanche if our clan was to thrive in such a harsh environment. He was a massive man, over 6.5 feet tall and built like a bear. His cold blue eyes could freeze the enemy to the bone before he even drew his 2 Satorite-fastened warhammers. Oh no, he was not a terrible leader at all. In fact, I'd even go so far as to say that my father, along with the deft hand and the essential counsel of my mother, of course, was a good leader. Great, in fact. Together, they built Dunerthorpe into one of the largest and most successful villages in all of Hugaheim. My father was just not so great at the whole father thing. Well, that is very sweet of you to say, human, thank you. But no, not all of my memories with my father were bad, I assure you. Many of them were good, in fact. Especially my earlier memories with him from when I was a boy still. I still remember my father and I sneaking into the Longhouse's treasury and stealing the arm rings that some of our clan's forefathers had received as signs of past friendship from other clans, before slinking into the courtyard behind the Longhouse and throwing them back and forth at one another in an attempt to hook them on each other's antlers. My mother caught us, of course, and when we turned to look at her, both of our heads jingled metallically. Our antlers looked like gilded Christmas trees sprouting from our foreheads. I mentioned antlers? Oh, my mistake then. Silly me. You are right, human. Of course I don't have any antlers. That would be ridiculous. I must have been remembering something else. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough about the past. Are you happy? Shall we return to the present finally? We have more important things to do than reminisce, after all. Good. Now, if what you said is true, the Verdunwood ruins have just become even more integral to finding the answers of how and why you have come to be here in our world than ever. And one thing lies between us and those answers right now, human. That ancient ward. You make it sound almost easy. If I could just reverse the warding spell with my own magic, I would have done so years ago. No, I am afraid wards are not that simple, and a ward can only be uncast by the caster themselves. Seeing how you are the only human that's been seen in nearly a millennium, I find the probability of us finding the caster to be just about null. No, we cannot simply break it either. I have tried everything, every element, every arcane school, and even explosives, and nothing works. Human magic was leagues beyond what we even know today, and this specific ward is no joke either. Clearly, whoever cast it intended for that door to never be opened again. Not from the outside, anyway. Well, there is a stone console of sorts on the outside of the door with archaic Tsundere circuitry surrounding a central disk of some kind, but it now lies totally unresponsive. From what Levi and I can ascertain, it's been rendered completely useless by time. Whatever it was, we may never know. Are there other wards like the one deep within the Verdunwood ruins? Oh, sure, but I've not been to them personally. We've found a few other lesser wards as well, but the majority of them have already been broken or dispelled by now. As of now, though, no one has ever cracked the ward on a vault, which is the nickname that we human archaeologists have given to these mysterious sealed rooms, nor the one that surrounds the center of what used to be their capital. Yes, I'm surprised Levi the Chatterbox hadn't already told you by now. The capital of the human empire, Aya, so named after their patron god, now lies in ruins, just like the rest of their towns, villages, and cities. But what makes Aya so special is that we only have access to about 2/3 of the ancient metropolis. The other third is sealed behind, by all accounts, what appears to be an impenetrable dome-shaped warding spell. Well, well, I am glad to hear that this has piqued your interest a little. Oh, so how does one get rid of a ward then? Well, the only way to dispel a ward is by using a dewarding potion. A dewarding potion essentially attacks the arcane structure of the spell, cutting it off from the ambient mana that it draws upon to sustain itself, and deconstructing it at an arcane level. The problem is that every ward is minutely different. No two wards are the same, even if they are the exact same warding spell, meaning that I must devise the precise alchemical recipe to create this particular dewarding potion. But thus far, all of my attempts have ended in utter failure. I am missing something, I know it. Some kind of biological component that will act as the catalyst with which all the other ingredients will harmonize with to dispel the ward. In fact... yes, there's an idea. Human, how would you like to take a little field trip, as it were? Well, I have an inkling that a certain set of ingredients I require for my dewarding potion will do just the trick. But unfortunately, they all happen to be quite rare plants that only grow under certain conditions, and unless I wish to travel halfway across the world and wait until just the right time or season to harvest them, there is only one place they can be found. A little woodland apothecary called the Curio Botanica. Oh, it's nothing but a brisk walk from Alcea to the home of the Curio Botanica, the Frogholm Forest. But I am afraid that I am much too busy with the rest of these scrolls to go myself, and Levi will be quite occupied scouring the Royal Alcean College's libraries to join you, I'm afraid. But you are a big human, after all, who can do magic, so I am sure you will manage, Yes, Frogholm. Named so because of all the native frog species. You'll love it. Very green. Lots of moss, mushrooms, and cute little fireflies. The Curio Botanica sits beside Salamander Brook, which runs right through the entirety of the misty forest. Oh, you are nervous? I fail to see why. You still have that cloak Levi procured for you to hide your little round human ears, correct? And you did, in fact, cast magic 2 days ago, correct? Good, then it's decided. I shall acquire you the necessary payment for the ingredients and write you up a list of everything that I require. Go and find yourself something for lunch in the lab's pantries, and take the rest of the day to relax. I have my alchemy blueprints to go over, and you have a little woodland walk tomorrow to prepare for. Oh, and you might want to pick up some decent water-resistant boots before you go. Levi might have a pair in the back. You can thank me when you return.